Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Borealan Acting Society Masterpiece Theatre. Today it is our pleasure to present to you The Importance of Being Earnest, written by the esteemed Oscar Wilde. Before we begin, there are a few quick announcements which need to be made. The first announcement is if everyone can please turn off all cell phones and noise-making devices. We would be muchly appreciated as a gesture of respect to both the actors and those sitting around. The second announcement, for the audience's safety and viewing pleasure, please ignore the cat. There is a cat that lives in this theatre. I'm not joking. Over the previous instances at night, this cat, by the way, is a paying patron. Over the previous show, which the cat enjoyed immensely until he was picked up by the scruff of his neck and thrown out by a member of the audience who he later then bit. The cat is one of our most avid fans and attended all rehearsals that took place in this theatre and the shows. Please allow him to enjoy the show as much as possible. The third announcement that needs to be made is this lovely portrait of Sir Dorian Gray, to my right, is up for auction this evening. During the first intermission, as some of you may have seen already, there is a sheet of paper outside on the table which has lists of people's names, phone numbers and bids that have already been placed. The highest bid currently is 200 shekels. All proceeds from the auction go to one family fund to help victims of terror. The procurer of the painting will have a write-up article about them on One Family Fund's website with, hopefully, if they agree, a picture of both themselves, the artist, and the boy. For your information, there is a playbill provided. Please read it. You will understand far more of the play if you particularly pay attention to the director's dictionary. It is therefore your reading pleasure. It's a little hard to do in the dark, but... This show will be approximately 2.5 hours with 2 intermissions. The first intermission approximately 10 minutes long. The second intermission approximately 3 minutes long. In the second intermission, we ask that if you don't necessarily need to, please don't leave the theatre. There will not be necessary time provided to go down to the bathroom and come back. I would like to begin with a short prologue of Oscar Wilde's thoughts on art. The artist is the creator of beautiful things. To reveal art and conceal the artist is art's true aim. The critic is one who can transform into another idea or new material his impression of beautiful things. The highest as well as the lowest form of criticism is a mode of autobiography. Those who find evil meaning or ugly meaning in beautiful things are themselves corrupt without being charming. This is a fault. While those who find beautiful meaning in beautiful things are the cultivated. For these there is a small bit of hope. They are the elect, for whom beautiful things mean simply beauty. For example, there is no such thing as a moral or immoral book. A book is either well written or poorly written. That is all. The 19th century dislike of realism was the rage of Caliban upon seeing his face in a glass, while the 19th century dislike of romanticism was the rage of Caliban upon not seeing his face in a glass. No artist ever desires to prove anything, for even things that are real can be proved. No artist has any ethical sympathies whatsoever. An ethical sympathy in an artist is an unpardonable mannerism of style. No artist is ever morbid. The artist can express everything. With regards to form, the art above all arts is that of the musician. Where with regards to feeling, why then it is the actor's craft that is the type. All art is both surface and symbol. Those who wish to delve beneath the surface do so at their own peril, while those who wish to read the symbol do so at their own peril. parents. Cheers, please. For it is the spectator and not art itself that art truly represents. We can forgive a man for making something useful so long as he does not admire it. The only reason for making something useless is that one admires it intensely. All art is utterly useless. I hope you enjoy the show, for I can assure you it is a beautiful thing. And therefore, if you don't enjoy the show, well, what does that say about you? The importance of being earnest. Lane? 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 Did you hear what I was playing, Lane?
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Sorry for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. But I play with wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep science for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking about the science of life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
By the way, Lane, I saw from your book that last Thursday night when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne are entered as having been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment the servants invariably drink all the champagne? I ask merely for information.
I attribute it, sir, to the superior quality of the wine. I often observed that in married households the champagne is rarely out of a first-rate brand.
Good heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
It is a very pleasant state, sir, I believe. I've had only very little experience of it myself up to the present, and this was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't know that I'm very much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir. It's not a very interesting subject. I never think of it myself.
Very natural, I am sure. That'll do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem as a class to have absolutely no sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Earnest Worthing.
How are you, my dear Earnest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating again, I see, dear Algy.
I believe it customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are these people you amuse?
Oh, neighbours, neighbours.
Got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
How immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes. Hello, why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolen.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is all very well, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way she flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolen. I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
Oh, I thought you came up for pleasure.
I call that business.
How utterly unromantic of you.
I really don't see anything romantic about proposals. It is very romantic to be in love, but there's nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why? One may be accepted. One usually is, I believe. And then the excitement is over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If ever I get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt of that, dear Algy. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
No, there's no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They're ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them all the time.
That is quite a different matter. She is my aunt. Here, have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
Quite good bread and butter it is, too.
Well, my dear fellow, you needn't eat it as if you were going to eat it all. You behave as if you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it's right.
That is nonsense.
It isn't. It is a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What do you mean by Cecily? I don't know anyone by the name of Cecily.
Bring me the cigarette case Mr. Worthing left in the smoking room the last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say that you have had my cigarette case this whole time? Do you wish you had let me know? I was writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
There's no sense in offering a reward now that the thing is found.
I think that is very mean of you, Ernest, I must say. However, it makes no matter. For now that I look at the inscription inside, I see that the thing isn't yours after all.
Well, of course it is mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. And you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It is a very private thing, a gentleman's cigarette case.
Oh, it's absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. More than half of modern culture depends on what one shouldn't read.
I'm perfectly well aware of the fact, and I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the kind of thing one should discuss in private. I simply want my cigarette case back.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cecily. And you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you must know, Cecily is my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady, she is too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algy.
Why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
What on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall. Some aunts are not so tall. Certainly that is a matter that an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think that all aunts should be like your aunt. That is absurd. Just give it back to me, Algy.
But why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt. But why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You have always told me it was Ernest. I've introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look as if your name was Ernest. You are the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It is perfectly absurd you're saying your name isn't Ernest. It's on your cards. Here's one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany. I'll keep this as proof that your name is Ernest if ever you attempt to deny it to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come, old boy, you'd much better have the whole thing out at once.
You talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It's a very vulgar thing to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression.
Well, that is exactly what dentists always do. Now go on, tell me the whole thing. I might mention I have always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce your explanation and pray, make it impromptu.
There's nothing at all improbable about my explanation. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle for motives of respect that you could hardly be expected to appreciate, lives at my estate in the country under the guidance of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is this place in the country, by the way?
Oh, that is no concern to you. You are not to be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
Well, I suspected that, my dear fellow. I've Bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, I don't know whether you will be able to appreciate my real motives. You are hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one must adopt the highest moral tone on all subjects. And as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce to either one's health or one's happiness. In order to get up to town, I've invented a younger brother named Earnest, who lives in the Albany and gets in the most dreadful of scrapes. And that, my dear Algy, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
That wouldn't be at all a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. You should leave that to people who haven't been at a university. They do it so well in the daily papers and the English department. What you really are is a Bunburyist. I was quite right in saying you are a Bunburyist. You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You invented a very useful younger brother named Earnest, in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. I've invented an invaluable permanent invalid named Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down to the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight at Willis's, for I've really been engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked with you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
Yes, I know you are absurdly careless about sending out invitations. It is very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people as much as not receiving invitations.
You had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta tonight.
I haven't the smallest intention of doing anything of the kind. To begin with, I dined there last Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I'm always treated as family and sent down with either no woman at all or 2. In the third place, I know perfectly well whom I will be seated next to tonight. I'll be seated next to Midget Farquhar, who has this absurd obsession with gumdrop buttons and always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. That is not very pleasant. Indeed, that is not even decent. And that sort of thing is enormously on the increase. The amount of women who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It looks so bad. It is simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to be a Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunbury. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolen accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. In fact, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily is getting a little too much attached to him. It is something of a bore. So I'm going to get rid of him, and I suggest you do the same with your invalid friend with the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if you ever get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you'll be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it.
That is nonsense. If I marry Gwendolen, and she is certainly the only girl I ever met that I would marry, I certainly wouldn't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You don't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
That, my dear friend, is the theory that the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years.
Yes, and the happy English home has proved in half the time.
Don't try to be cynical. It is perfectly easy to be cynical.
My dear fellow, it isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's so much beastly competition about. Ah, that must Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I could get her out of the way for 10 minutes so you have an opportunity for proposing to Gwendolen, will you dine with me tonight at Willis's?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Oh, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about food. It is so shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing. Indeed, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I am always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
I certainly hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for development. And I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we are a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looked quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come and sit by me, Gwendolyn?
No, thank you, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Nay, why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir. Not even for ready money.
That'll do, Lane, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am very distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers. Not even for ready money.
No, it really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
Well, it certainly has changed colour. From what cause I, of course, cannot say.
Thank you.
I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She's such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment, but the fact of the matter is that I have just received a telegram to say that my poor friend Bunbury is very ill again. They seem to think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Bunbury of yours seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury decided whether he was going to live or to die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. Nor do I in any way agree with his modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. But health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, though he never seems to take much notice as far as any improvement in his ailment goes. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last perception, and one wants something that will inspire conversation, particularly at the end of the season, when everyone has practically said everything that they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
Well, I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious, and I think I can promise you he'll be all right by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, nobody talks. And if one plays bad music, nobody listens. But I'll run over the program I've drawn out if you'll kindly come into the other room for a moment.
Oh, thank you, Algernon. It's very kind of you. I'm sure the program would be delightful. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think that they are improper and look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed I believe is so. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me?
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming weather we're having, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else, Miss Fairfax.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I mean to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's absence.
Oh, I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I have often had to speak to her about.
Gwendolen, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have ever met since I met you.
Yes, I'm quite well aware of that. And I often wish that, in public, at any rate, you had been far more demonstrative. For me, you have always held an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Welding, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines and has reached the provincial pulpits, I am told. And my ideal has always been to love someone by the name of Earnest. There's something in that name that inspires one with absolute confidence. When Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
Do you really love me then, Gwendolen?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Earnest?
But do you mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest?
But your name is Earnest. Earnest.
Yeah, yes, I know it is. But supposing it was some other name, could you love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, it's very little reference to the real facts of everyday life as we know them.
Personally, Gwendolen, I don't much care for the name of Earnest. I don't think it suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, Gwendolen, I think there are many other much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a very charming name.
Jack? No, there's very little music, if any at all indeed, in the name Jack. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is notorious domesticity for John, and I would pity any woman who was married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolen, darling, I must get christened at once. We must get married at once.
Married, Mr. Welding?
Yes. You know that I love you, and you led me to believe that you were not completely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Welding, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolen.
Yes, Mr. Welding, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolen, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long you have been about it. I'm afraid you've had very little experience in how to propose.
Gwendolen, my darling, I have never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. Brown eyes, and they are quite brown. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from the semi-recumbent posture. It's most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me, you're not engaged to anyone. engaged, I or your father, should his health permit it, will inform you of the fact. Engagement should come upon a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. It could hardly be a matter that she should be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I make these inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma?
In the carriage, Gwendolen! Gwendolen! The carriage! You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you're not down on my list of eligible young men. Though I have the same list that the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I'm fully prepared to enter your name should your answers prove to be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
Excellent. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A good age to be married at. Now, I've always been of the opinion that a man who desires to be married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know? Everything or nothing?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I'm very pleased to hear it. I can't approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes, and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. But between the duties expected from one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That is all that can be said about land.
I own a country house with about 1,500 acres attached to it, but I don't derive any of my real income from it. In fact, as far as I can tell, the poachers are the only ones who seem to make anything out of it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, that is a matter that can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, I own a house on Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to a Lady Bloxham. However, I can get it back whenever I like at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't believe I know her.
Oh, she goes about very little. She's a lady considerably advanced in years.
Nowadays, that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What number Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could soon be cleared up.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
I'm afraid I have none. I am for national responsibility.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us or come in the evening, at any rate. And now on to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I'm afraid I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be seen as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers are calling the purple of commerce, or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
I'm afraid, Lady Bracknell, that I really don't know who I am by birth. When I said I had lost both my parents, you see, it would be nearer the truth to say that my parents had lost me. I was, well, you see, I was found.
Found?
The old Mr. Thomas Cardew, a gentleman of kindly and charitable disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he had a first-class ticket to Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a town in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, a large black leather handbag. Quite ordinary handbag with handles upon it.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew find this ordinary handbag?
In a cloakroom at Victoria Station. station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
Cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born or at any rate bred in a handbag seems to me to display contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life. That reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I suppose you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the locality in which you were found, a cloakroom in a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion. Indeed, has probably been used for that purpose before now. But it could hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
Well, may I ask you then, what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in my power to assure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations, and to make a definite effort to produce one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
Well, I don't see how I can possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any time. It is in my dressing room at home. That really should be enough to satisfy you, Lisa.
Me, sir? What has this to do with me? You can hardly expect that Lord Bracknell and myself would allow our only daughter to go brought up with the utmost care to marry into a cloakroom and formalize you a parcel. Good day, sir.
Good day. Algie, stop playing that ghastly tune! How idiotic you are!
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you. I know, it is the way she has. She's always refusing people. I think it's most ill-natured of her.
You know, Gwendolyn is right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is quite unbearable. I never met such a gorgon. I don't know what a gorgon is. But I'm quite sure that she is one. At any rate, she is a monster. Without being a myth, which is quite unfair. I'm sorry, Algie, I shouldn't talk about your own lot this way in front of you.
My dear fellow, I love hearing my relations' views. It's the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who haven't got the remotest idea of how to live, from the smallest instinct about when to die.
That is nonsense.
It isn't.
Well, I don't propose to argue about the subject. You always want to argue about things.
That's exactly what things were originally made for.
Upon my word, if I thought that, I'd shoot myself. You don't suppose there is any possibility of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years, do you, Algie?
All women become like their mothers. That's their tragedy. No man does, that's his.
Is that clever?
It is perfectly phrased, and quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be.
I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everyone is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. It has become an absolute public nuisance. Wish we had some fools about.
We do.
What do they talk about?
The fools all about the clever people, of course.
What fools?
By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't the kind of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. Extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her, if she is pretty, and to someone else if she is plain.
This nonsense.
What about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest?
Oh, before the end of the week I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die quite suddenly of apoplexy, don't they, Algie?
Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow, the sort of thing that runs in families. You had much better say a severe chill.
You are quite sure that a severe chill isn't hereditary?
Of course it isn't.
Very well then. Before the end of the week, my poor brother Ernest is carried away by a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
But I thought you said that Miss Cardew was a little too much interested in your poor brother Ernest. Won't she feels lost a good deal?
Oh, that is quite all right. Cecily, I'm glad to say, is not a silly romantic girl. She has a capital appetite, goes on long walks, and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
I'd rather like to see Cecily.
I shall take good care that you never do. She's excessively pretty, and only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolyn yet that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
Well, one doesn't just blurt these things out to people. If Cecily and Gwendolyn are quite sure to become great friends, why, I'll bet you anything you like that within a half hour of meeting each other, they are calling each other sister.
Women only do that after they've called each other a lot of other things. Now, my dear boy, if we are going to get a good table at Willis's, we really must go and dress. Do you know it is nearly 7?
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Shall we go to the theater?
Oh, no, I loathe listening.
Well, let us go to the club.
No, I hate talking.
Well, we could trot around to the Empire at 10.
No, I can't stand looking at people.
Well, what shall we do?
Nothing.
It's awfully hard work doing nothing. But I don't mind a bit of hard work if there's no definite object of any kind.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You're not old enough to do that. Mrs. Worthing, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children have to say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I ever had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But, although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Darling?
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma with unpleasing comment, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Wilton, Hertfordshire.
There is a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will be in communication with you daily.
Darling.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algy, you may turn round now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell.
May I see you out to your carriage?
Certainly.
Thank you, lady. I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir. Your honorable, sir.
Glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I won't be back till Monday. You can put up my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all my Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
Never is, sir.
Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There's a sensible, intellectual girl, the finest girl I ever met in my life. What are you so amused by?
Oh, I'm just a little anxious about my poor friend Bunbury, that is all.
If you're not careful, your friend Bunbury will get you into a serious scrape someday.
I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
That is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
studies await me. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray, open it at page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
I don't like German. Isn't it all a becoming language? I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German as he is leaving for town.
Uncle Jack is so serious. Sometimes he's so serious, I think he cannot be quite well.
Mr. Worthing enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one with a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that's why Alva looks quite bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. And you must not forget his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him. You, Miss Prism, I'm sure you certainly would. You know German and geology and things of that kind influence a man very much.
True, but I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I'm not sure that I would wish to reclaim him. I'm not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. Cecily, you must put away your diary. I do not see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that haven't happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I think memory is responsible for all the 3-volume novels that Moody sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. But I hope it did not end happily. Don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. It seems so unfair. Tell me, was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript, unfortunately, was abandoned.
Abandoned?
I use the word in the sense of lost or misplaced. But to your child, these speculations are profitless.
I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up to the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning, Miss Prism? You, I trust well.
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her much good to have a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I have not said anything about a headache.
Oh, I know that, Miss Prism, but I felt it instinctively that you had one. In fact, I was thinking about that, not about my German, when the rector walked in.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be one of Miss Prism's pupils, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. So, Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet.
We do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He usually likes to spend his Sunday afternoon in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as, by all accounts, that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I shall not disturb Egeria and the pupil any longer.
Egeria? Doctor, my name is Letitia.
A classical allusion, drawn from the pagan authors. So, I shall see you both, no doubt, tonight at Evensong.
I think, dear doctor, I will have that stroll with you after all. I find I have a headache, and a walk might do it good.
Pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go so far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the Rupee you may omit. It is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
political economy, horrid geology, horrid Jen. I will read this book.
Mr. Ernest Walking has just driven over from the station. He's brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4 the Albany. That's Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. He said he was anxious. I told him that you and Miss Prism were in the garden, and he said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come out here. And I suppose you better speak to the housekeeper about getting a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met any handsome man before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he will look just like everybody else. Oh, he does!
You are my little cousin Cecily, I am sure.
Oh, I'm afraid you are under some misconception. You see, I'm not little. In fact, I'm usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. And you, as I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked at all, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I am wicked.
Well, if you're not wicked, then you have certainly been deceiving us in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and really being good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
I suppose I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now you mention the subject, I happen to have been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that. But I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
I don't understand that you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by the first train Monday morning. I have a business appointment which I am anxious to miss.
Well, couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Oh. Well, I know how important it is to miss a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But I still think you should wait for Uncle Jack and want to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
Your emigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
Well, I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he mentioned at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, the accounts I've heard on the next world and Australia are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
Oh, I am afraid I am not that at all. That is why I want you to reform me, cousin Cecily. You might make that your mission if you don't mind.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather quixotic of you. I do think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking rather worse.
That is because I am hungry.
Oh, of course, how thoughtless of me. When one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I've never any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
Is a carnation okay?
No, I'd sooner a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, cousin Cecily.
I don't think it's right that you say such things. Miss Prism never does.
Then Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are nothing but a snare.
They are a snare that any sensible man would like to be caught in.
Well, I don't think I would like to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about. Darling, are you coming in? You are too much
much alone, dear Dr. Possible. You should get married. A misanthrope, I can understand. A womanthrope? Never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally as attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife.
And often I've been told, not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. Oh. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. Cecily.
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing?
Mr. Worthing?
This is indeed a surprise. We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
Dear Dr. Chasuble, I have returned sooner than expected. I trust you are well.
Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother.
More shameful decks and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Dead.
Your brother Ernest dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Dear Mr. Worthing, you have my sincerest condolences. You have at least the consolation of knowing that you are always among the most forgiving and generous of brothers.
Poor, poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad. In Paris, in fact. I received a telegram from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Well, was the cause of death mentioned, or?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so let him reap.
Charity in this prison, charity! No man is perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he has expressed a desire to be buried abroad. In Paris.
In Paris? I fear that hardly points to any very serious state of mind at the last. You will no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion. Joyful. Or, as in the present case, distressing. I have preached at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and feast days. The last time I gave it was at the cathedral as a charity sermon for the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Orders. The bishop who was present was quite struck by some of the analogies I drew.
I believe you mentioned christenings. I mean, you know how to christen all right? I mean, you are continually christening, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in the parish. I have often spoken to the poorer classes on this subject, but they do not seem to know what thrift is.
But is any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother, I believe, was unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
Oh, but it is not for any infant. I'm very fond of children. No, I myself would like to be christened this afternoon if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
Well, I don't remember anything about it.
Have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I am too old for it.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need have no apprehensions. The sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour do you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot round around 5 if that would suit you.
Perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I had 2 similar cases to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently on one of the outlying cottages on your own estate. Poor Jenkins the carter, a most hard-working man.
I don't see much fun in being christened along with babies. It would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably, admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, the hour is late. I shall not intrude any longer into a house of sorrow. I merely beg that you be not too much bowed down by grief. What seems to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me to be a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack, I'm so pleased to see you back. What horrid clothes have you got on? Do go in and change them.
Cecily.
My child, my child.
Uncle Jack, do look happy. You look as if you've had toothache. And I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He's arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense, I haven't got a brother.
Uncle Jack, don't say such things. Whatever he's done to you in the past, he's still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. No, I'll go tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings.
After we had all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seemed to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother in the dining room, I don't know what this all means. I think it is all perfectly absurd. Good heavens!
Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you I'm very sorry for the trouble I've given you and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here perfectly disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, and he goes to visit.
Yes,
You know, surely there must be some good in someone who's kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by where the pain.
he's been telling you about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't even talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It's enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
Of course I admit the faults were all on my side, but I must say I find Brother John's coldness to me peculiarly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it is the first time I have come here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't take your brother's hand, I will never forgive you.
Never?
Never, never, never.
Well, it is the last time I shall do it.
It is pleasant, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? I think we might lead the 2 brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, my little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
Well, I feel very happy.
You young scoundrel, Algy, you've got to get out of here at once. I don't allow any Bunburying here.
put Mr. Earnest in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right.
His what?
His luggage, sir. I've unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 ad boxes, and a big, heavy luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay longer than a week this time.
Marion, call the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
Well, I can certainly understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
I won't have you talk about Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It is perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who is actually staying with you for a whole week in your house as a guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me as my guest for a week and anything else. You've got to go. Catch the 4:05 train.
Well, I certainly won't leave you so long as you are in mourning. It would be most unfriendly. If I were in mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I should think it very unkind if you didn't.
No, As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, your taking in of a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
Yes, I suppose so. Well, honestly, Jack, I think you should just go up and change.
You will go if I change my clothes then?
Yes, if you are not too long. I've never seen someone take so long to dress with such little result.
Well, that is better than being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you've got to go catch the train, so I hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
Well, I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for another Bunbury. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's going to order the dog cart for me.
Is he going to take you for a nice drive?
He's going to send me away.
Then, have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
It's always painful parting from someone whom one has just met. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity. But even a momentary separation from anyone whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
It can wait, merry men. For 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
Cecily, I hope I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness is a great credit, Earnest. I must copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to look at it. May I?
Oh, no. It is simply a very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. I hope you'll order a copy when it appears in volume form. But pray, Earnest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You may go on. I am quite ready for more. Ernest, don't cough. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell cough.
Cecily, ever since I looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think it's right that you tell me You love me. Wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily.
Go on, darling.
The dog can't still waiting, sir.
Tell her to come around next week. At the same hour.
Yes, sir.
I don't think Ernest would appreciate it. Ernest, I don't think Uncle Jack would appreciate it very much if he knew you were staying around till next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone in the world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Oh, you silly boy. Why, of course, we've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months this Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, you see, darling, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And any man who is very much talked about is very attractive. One feels there must be something in him, after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, Ernest, but I fell in love with you.
Darling. And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I decided to end the matter one way or another. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. The next day I went out and bought myself this ring in your name. And this is the bangle with the true lover's knot I promise you to always wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Oh, yes. You've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given you for leading such a terrible life. And this is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
My letters? But my own sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you.
Do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, no, you would be far too conceited if I was that. Besides, the 3 you wrote me after I broke off the engagement are so beautiful and so poorly spelled, I can hardly read them now without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was, on the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Just give me a moment. Here it is. Today I broke off the engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather remains charming.
But why did you break it off? What had I done? I had done nothing. Cecily, I'm very much hurt indeed to hear you broke it off, particularly when the weather was so charming.
Well, it would have hardly been considered a truly serious engagement if I hadn't broken it off at least once. Darling, don't be sad. I forgave you before the week was out.
Oh, what a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
My sweet romantic boy. I'm so glad.
You'll never break off our engagement again, Cecily.
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met you. Besides, there is the question of your name.
Of course.
You see, don't laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. One feels there's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence.
But, my dear child, do you mean to say you couldn't love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon. For instance.
I don't like the name of Algernon.
But my own dear, sweet, loving little darling, I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It isn't a bad name at all. In fact, it's a rather aristocratic name. Half the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might even admire your character. But I dare say I should be able to give you my undivided attention.
And, Cecily, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the practice of all rites and ceremonials of the church.
Dr. Chasuble. Yes, he's a most learned man. He has never written a single book. You can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him at once on a most important christening. I meet on a most important business.
Oh,
I shan't be away more than half an hour.
but, darling, considering But, well, we've been engaged for the last 3 months, and I've only met you for the first time today. Don't you think it's rather hard that you should leave me for such a period as half an hour? Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
Oh, what an impetuous boy he is. I love his puppy brown eyes so much. Oh, I must enter his proposal into my diary. Today, Ernest proposed to me again.
Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on a very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Is it Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Oh, pray ask the lady to come out here. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon. Could you bring some tea?
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose one of the many good elderly women associated with Uncle Jack and his philanthropic work in London. Don't like women who are associated with philanthropic work. So forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray, let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Certainly, Cardew. It's a very sweet name. Something tells me we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
Oh, how nice of you to like me after knowing me for such a comparatively short time. Won't you sit down?
I may call you Cecily, may I not? With pleasure. And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
You wish?
That was all very clever, was it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps now would be a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You have never heard of Papa, I suppose?
No, I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is as it should be. The home seems to me to be the proper sphere for the man. And once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate. And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of his system, so do you mind if I look at you through my glasses?
Oh, no, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You are a short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years resides here as well?
No, I've got no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
Mr. Worthing, with the help of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
He is your guardian?
Yes, Miss, he is my guardian and I am his ward.
Oh, it is strange you never mentioned that ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I am not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. Cecily, I'm very fond of you. I have loved you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state that now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help but express a wish that you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Oh, please do. I believe that whenever anybody has something unpleasant to say, they should always be quite candid.
well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history, supplies us with many painful examples of what I refer to. Indeed, if it were not so, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yeah.
But it's not Mr. Ernest Worthing who's my guardian. It's his brother, his elder brother.
Ernest never mentioned he had a brother.
Well, I'm sorry to say they have not been on very good terms for quite some time.
That accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I have never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you've lifted a load off my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not?
Of course, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing, Monsieur Garden.
Quite sure. Thanks, Gwendolyn. I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Well, you see, Gwendolyn, darling, there's no reason for me to keep it a secret of it to you. County newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next Tuesday. Ernest and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear on the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
I'm afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago. You can see the entry if you like.
It is very curious. For he asked to meet with his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm so sorry to hear, Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dearest Gwendolyn, if it caused you any physical or mental anguish, but I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my poor boy has gotten himself into, well, I will never reproach you with him after we are married.
You alluding to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a royal duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for the shallow masculine manners. When I see spade, I call it a spade.
I'm glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that her social spheres have been widely different.
The lady as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual, Merriman.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes, quite many. From the top of one of the hills nearby, one can see into 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
You hate crowds, I suppose that's why you live in a town?
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Flowers are as common here as people are in London.
Personally, I cannot see how anybody manages to live in the country, if anybody who is anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
This is what the newspapers are calling agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering from it just as present. They say it's an epidemic amongst them. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Yes, thank you. Detestable girl, but I require tea.
Yes, miss.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax. Don't spill it.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And though I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor innocent boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I mistrusted you. I knew you are false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, I am trespassing on your valuable time. I'm sure you have many other calls of similar good character to make in the neighborhood.
Gwendolen, darling!
To my own ends, a moment. Pray, are you engaged to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily? What could have put such a silly idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there must be some misconception. The man who is standing over there quite stupidly is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack. Oh.
Here is Ernest.
My own love.
A moment, darling. Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolen!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolen. I mean, to Gwendolen.
No, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may kiss me.
I knew there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The man who's standing beside Jack is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon? Moncrief? Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name is John. It has been John for years.
Gross deception has been practiced on the two of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet wrong Gwendolen.
You will call me sister.
There is just one question I must be allowed to ask my guardian.
An excellent idea. Mr. Worthing, there's just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Who is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance. I want to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolen, Cecily, it is a very painful thing for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I have ever been put in such a painful position. I really have no experience in doing anything of the kind. However, I must say frankly that I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all. I've never had a brother. And I certainly have no intention of ever having a brother in the future.
No brother at all?
None.
Had you never a brother of any kind?
Never. Not even of any kind.
I'm afraid it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
It is not. Let's go into the house. They will hardly venture after us there.
Certainly. Men are so cowardly, aren't they? Come, darling, Gwendolen.
Well, I suppose this ghastly state of affairs is what you call bunburying.
Yes, and what a wonderful bunbury it is. What a wonderful bunbury.
whatsoever to Bunbury here.
That is absurd. One has a right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious Bunburyist? Good heavens!
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunbury. What on earth you are serious about, I haven't the remotest idea. But everything I should fancy of such an absolutely trivial nature.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have in any of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the country quite so often as you used to, Algy, and a good thing, too.
Your brother, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so often as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either.
What you're deceiving a sweet, simple, innocent girl is perfectly inexcusable, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I really can't see any defense for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax. To say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn. I love her, that is all.
Well, I simply want to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There's certainly no chance of you ever marrying Miss Cardew.
I really don't think there's much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that is no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It is very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only stockbrokers do that, and then merely at dinner at parties.
How can you sit there calmly eating muffins when we are in this horrible state? I can't make out. You seem to be perfectly heartless.
If I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner, the crumbs would probably get all up my cuffs. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It is the only way to eat them.
I say it's perfectly heartless you eating muffins at all under the circumstances.
When I'm in trouble, food is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the moment, I'm eating muffins because I am unhappy. Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
Well, there's no sense in you eating them all in that greedy way.
Jack, I really wish you would have the tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
I suppose man made muffins in his own house.
But you have just said it's perfectly heartless to be eating muffins.
Well, I said it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. That's a very different thing.
That may be, but muffins are the same.
Algy, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly ask me to go without having any dinner. That is absurd. I never go anywhere without my dinner. Nobody ever does, except vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I've just made arrangements to be christened at 5:45 by Dr. Chasuble under the name of Earnest.
The sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I myself made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:30. And I naturally will take the name of Earnest. Gwendolyn would wish it. Cannot both be christened Earnest? That's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. There's no evidence at all that I've ever been christened by anybody. I think it very probable I never was. So does Dr. Chasuble. You, on the other hand, have been christened already.
Yes, but I've not been christened for years.
But you have been christened already. That is the important thing.
Quite so I know my constitution can stand it. If you're not sure about your ever having been christened, I must say I think it rather dangerous you're venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You can hardly have forgotten that someone very closely connected to you was very nearly carried off this week in Paris by a severe chill.
But you said yourself that a severe chill wasn't hereditary.
You seem to be, I know, but I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
It's nonsense.
Jack, you're at the muffins again. I really wish you would. There are only 2 left. I told you I was particularly fond of muffins.
Algie, I wish to goodness you would go. I have asked you to go. I don't want to hear. Why don't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet. There's still one muffin left.
That they did not follow us at once into the house as anyone else would have done seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
Well, they have been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Didn't you cough?
I don't have a cough.
They're looking at us with effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly. It's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
Most distasteful one.
But we shall not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Ernest, Mr. Moncrief, kindly respond to me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems like a most satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't. That does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True, in matters of great importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest of doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. Down from German skepticism. The answers appear quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean no.
True, I had forgotten there are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Couldn't we both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time for me?
Certainly. Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all? But I am going to be Christian this afternoon!
For me, you are prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
To please me, you're prepared to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes, where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned. Men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage. Women know absolutely nothing.
Darling,
Darling.
darling.
Lady Bracknell.
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that I'm engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of small coin, I followed her at once by luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I'm glad to say, under the impression that she is currently attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme on the influence of permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive them. Indeed, I have never undeceived them on any question. I would consider it wrong. However, you must clearly understand why all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now as regards Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
might this be the house in which your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh no, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did he die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury's died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury, oh, he was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was unaware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he was well punished for his morbidity.
Aunt Augusta, what I mean is that he was found out. That the doctors found out that Bunbury couldn't live. That was what I mean. So Bunbury died.
He seems to have had great confidence in the opinion of his physician. Well, I'm glad that at last Mr. Bunbury made up his mind to some course of action and acted under proper medical advice. And now that we have gotten rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person who my nephew Algernon is sitting next to in what seems to me to be a most peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I do not know if there's anything particularly exciting in the air of this part of Bedfordshire, but the number of engagements they go on seem to me to be considerably above the average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I believe some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew in any way related to any of the larger railway stations in London? I had no idea that there were any families or persons whose origin was a terrorist.
Miss Cecily Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Park Southwest, the Gervais, Dorking, Surrey, and the Wolfson Towers, Bentvie, Jerusalem.
That seems not unsatisfactory. Career addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period, Lady Bracknell. They are open to your inspection.
I have known strange errors in that publication.
Miss Cardew's solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby. A firm of the highest position in their profession. Indeed, I've heard that one of the Mr. Markbys is to be seen occasionally at dinner parties. So far, I'm satisfied.
I'm so glad that pleases you. I also have in my possession certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
Ah, life crowded with incident, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a girl so young. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Come, Gwendolyn, the time approaches for our departure. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I suppose I'd better ask you whether Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh. About £130,000 in the funds. That is all. Good day, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to me a most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls today have any really solid qualities, any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Come here, child. Pretty child, your dress is sadly civil, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. However, we can soon alter that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvelous result in a very short amount of time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Kindly turn around, sweet child. No, the side view is what I want. Yes, quite as I expected. Darling. are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The two weak points of our age are its want of principle and its want of profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on where the chin is worn. They are worn very high just at present. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the dearest, sweetest, prettiest girl in the world, and I don't care twopence about social possibilities.
You'll never disrespect society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. You must know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon. I myself am not in favor of missionary marriages. However, why, when I married Lord Bracknell, I had not a penny to my name. But I never dreamed of letting that stand in my way.
Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me. You may also refer to me as Aunt Augusta in the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place at once.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I'm not in favor of long engagements. They give people the chance of finding out each other's character before marriage. Which I think is never advisable.
I beg your pardon, Lady Bracknell. But I am afraid that this marriage is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and under the terms of her grandfather's will, she cannot marry without my consent. That consent I decline to give.
On what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may almost say an ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
It pains me to have to speak frankly to you about your nephew, but I am afraid that I disapprove of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He's Smithsonian.
I am afraid there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, when I was away in London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to this house under the false pretense of being my brother. Under this assumed name he drank, I've just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet, Brut 89, a vintage I was specially reserving for myself. Proceeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward, and stayed for tea, and devoured every single muffin! What makes his conduct all the more heartless is, he knew from the start that I have no brother, that I've never had a brother, and that I certainly intend to never have a brother in the future. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I've decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
How extremely generous of you, Lady Bracknell. However, my own decision is unalterable. My consent I refuse to give.
Come here, child.
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always confess to 20 when I go to dinner parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Women should never be exact about their age. It looks so calculating. 18, but admitting to 20 at dinner parties. Well, it won't be long now until you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me once again for interrupting you, but I'm afraid under the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come of age until she is 35.
Does not seem to me to be a unreasonable decision. Why, 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the highest birth who, of their own free will, have remained 35 for years. Lady Doubtshire is mixed in point. To my own knowledge, she has remained 35 ever since she reached the age of 40, which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not even more attracted at the age you mentioned that she is at present. There should be a large accumulation of property.
Algy, couldn't you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
I know, I felt instinctively that you could. But I couldn't wait that long. I don't like waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross. I know I'm not punctual myself, but I do like punctuality in others. And waiting, even to get married, is certainly out of the question.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she could not wait until she was 35 to be married, a comment which I feel bound to say points to a somewhat impatient nature, I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But I find, Lady Bracknell, that the matter is entirely in your hands. The moment you consent to my marriage to Gwendolen, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that what you ask is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all that any of us have to look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come, dear, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christening, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
Both of these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, it is grotesque in your religion. I forbid you to be baptized. Your father would be most displeased if he found out that that was the way in which you wasted your time and money.
Am I to understand that there are to be no christenings this afternoon?
I'm afraid that as matters currently stand, it would be of no practical value to either of us, Dr. Charleston.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savor the heretical views of the Anabaptists, views that I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, since your present mood seems to be peculiarly secular, I shall return to the church at once. In fact, I have just been informed by my pure opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Did you say Prism?
Yes, Lady Broughton. I'm on my way to join her.
Pray allow me to detain you for a moment. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect? Remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. Pray, what position does she have in your household?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
Despite what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting for you there for 1 hour and 3/4.
Prism! Come here, Prism! Prism! Where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Grosvenor Square, in possession of a pram that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned! Through the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the pram was discovered at a remote location publication near Bayswater. It contained a 3-volume manuscript of more than revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism! Where is that baby? Do shut up and get hold of yourself.
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that is forever branded in my memory, I prepared, as usual, to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag. Manuscript of a work of fiction which I had completed during my few unoccupied hours. During a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I placed the manuscript in the bassinet and the baby in the
But Miss Prism, what did you do with the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, I insist on knowing where you placed the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it at one of the larger railway stations of London.
What railway station?
Victoria! The Brighton line!
I must retire to my rooms for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait for me here.
If you are not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high society, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They're hardly considered the thing.
Well, Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your uncle has a very emotional nature.
It sounds as though we were having an argument. I despise arguments of any kind. They are often vulgar and always convincing.
It has stopped now.
I should arrive at some conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope for that.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Look at it carefully before you answer. The happiness of more than one life depends on it.
It seems to be mine. Yes. Here is the injury it received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus, which occurred in younger and happier days. And here is the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, which occurred at Leamington. And here, on the lock, are my initials. I had forgotten that in a moment of extravagance I had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. Yes, I am so happy to have it so unexpectedly restored to me after all these years. It has been a great inconvenience being without it.
More is restored to you than the handbag. Miss Prism, I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes. Mother.
Mr. Worthing! I am unmarried.
Unmarried. I do not deny that is a serious blow. But who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe away an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there's been some grave error. There is the woman who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, would you kindly inform me who I am?
I'm afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother. Then I have a brother after all. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother.
How do you do?
Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you have never treated me like a brother in all your life. You had better treat me with more respect in the future.
Well, not till today, old boy, I admit. I did my best, however, though I was out of practice.
My own one. But what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you've become someone else?
Oh dear, I'd quite forgotten that matter. Your decision on the subject is irrevocable?
I never change, except in my affections.
Well, the matter had better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, when I was left in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished upon you by your fond and doting parents.
Yes. But what name was I given?
Being the eldest, you were naturally christened after your father.
But what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the General's Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, yes, but only in later years, and that was the result of the Indian climate and marriage and indigestion and other things of that sort.
Algy, cannot you recall what our father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we weren't even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
Aunt Augusta, his name would appear in the army lists of the period, I suppose?
The General was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I see no reason why his name would appear in any military directory.
The list of the last 40 years are here. I should have made them Here. M. Malum, Maximum, Montoya, Mausner, Mizrahi, Matbucha, Moncrief, Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, General, 1869, Christian names, Earnest John. Gwendolyn, I always told you my name was Earnest. I mean, it is Earnest. I mean, it naturally is Earnest.
Oh, yes, I remember now. The general's Christian name was Ernest. I knew there was a distinct reason I disliked the name.
Ernest, I knew you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, darling, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out his entire life he has been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I feel that you are sure to change.
Darling.
Muffin Yum.
You seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I finally realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
We want to say a really huge thank you to all the hard work that Rompy put in. So as a token of our gratitude, hurry up! I'm going to stall a little bit.